We begin tonight with the story of a rescue mission. The Indian Navy has pulled it off, and guess who they've rescued? 19 Pakistanis from being hijacked by pirates. It's a lesson in contrast and professionalism. While Pakistani forces support terror groups that take Indian lives, Indian troops rescue innocent civilians even if they're Pakistani. We'll bring you the full story. And in New Delhi, it's budget week. The interim budget will be presented in 2 days from now, and the government has set some stiff targets. India is hoping to be a $7 trillion economy in the next 7 years. In Pakistan, Imran Khan has been sentenced to 10 years in jail. What does it mean for him and the upcoming election? In China, Xi Jinping is carrying out his biggest purge yet, more than 1 lakh officials and counting. In Australia, 13 tons of vapes have been seized. India and Saudi Arabia conduct their first joint military drills near the border with Pakistan. What is the message for Rawalpindi here? Vietnam and the Philippines come together to counter China. Elon Musk implants a computer chip in a human brain. What does the future hold? And the power of power naps. We'll tell you what science says. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Will there be a truce in Gaza? Hamas says it's reviewing a new proposal, but deadly fighting and bombing continue in Gaza. More than 120 people killed overnight. The epicenter of battle has been Khan Yunis, the hometown of Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar. China, Xi Jinping receives credentials from Taliban's envoy to Beijing. Last September, China was the first country to appoint an ambassador to Afghanistan. In 2021, the Taliban returned to power in Kabul, but no country formally recognizes the regime. Hong Kong to create a new security law. It aims to crush pro-independence dissent. The government first tried to bring this law in 2003, but shelved it after protests. In 2020, China imposed a sweeping national security law after pro-democracy protests. French farmers are up in arms, blocking key highways to Paris for the second consecutive day. They're angry over pay and environmental policies of the Macron government. Farmers in Italy, Germany, Belgium and Poland are also protesting. Another day, another jolt to the opposition in India. The BJP wins the mayoral polls in Chandigarh. The opposition cries foul after some of their votes were declared invalid. Ahead of the general elections, several leaders from the opposition have jumped ship to the BJP and the ruling NDA. And Nigeria is looking for a former beauty queen. Why? For their alleged drug trafficking. The authorities say she escaped during a recent raid on her home in Lagos. What would you do if a potential enemy was in trouble? If they were attacked unprovoked, about to be captured by pirates? Some may ignore it, but not India. The Indian Navy has shown its valor once again. It has rescued 19 Pakistani fishermen from the clutches of Somali pirates. In fact, India pulled off not one but 2 rescues. Hours before saving the Pakistanis, the Indian Navy had rescued some Iranians, again from Somali pirates. First, let's look at what happened. On Sunday, the Indian Navy received a distress call from an Iranian fishing vessel called the Iman. The Iman was being hijacked. Pirates had boarded the ship. The crew was being taken hostage, but they managed to send out the distress call. It was intercepted by the INS Sumitra, a Saryu-class advanced patrol ship capable of ocean surveillance and monitoring. One of the 10 ships that India has deployed in the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. So when the Iranians gave this distress call, the INS Sumitra set off in pursuit. It caught up to the captured fishing vessel early the next day. The Indian Navy put out the statement. They say they followed standard operating procedure and coerced the pirates to safely release the crew. 17 Iranian nationals were on this fishing vessel, the Iman. The Indian Navy ensured that they were all safe. Now, we don't know what happened to the pirates. All that the Indian side has said is that the boat was quote-unquote sanitized. After this, the Iranian crew was allowed to proceed. But the story does not end here. The INS Sumitra was not done yet. Soon, another Iranian fishing vessel was in danger. This one was called the Al Naimi. Now, India was not just going to stand by. So the INS Sumitra began another pursuit. It managed to track down the second vessel. The Al Naimi had also been hijacked. Its crew was also being held hostage by Somali pirates, so the Indian ship took up a coercive posture again. It deployed its integral helicopter. Smaller boats were also sent towards the fishing vessel. This forced the 11 pirates to surrender. The Indian naval forces then boarded the ship and they rescued the crew. There were 19 Pakistani nationals on board the Al Naimi. The Indian troops checked on their safety and well-being. Then they sanitized the ship once again. And this time the photos gave a better idea about what this really means. You can see 10 of the pirates here with their hands tied. Their possessions have been confiscated and there isn't a weapon in sight. It's safe to say that the Indian forces dealt with the threat and the Pakistani fishermen were saved. But what does this episode tell you? No matter the old enmity and Pakistan's track record, Indian troops remain professional. They will ensure that innocent civilians are kept safe, even if they're Pakistani. And there are both humanitarian and strategic reasons for that. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar wrapped it up quite succinctly.
I feel today that India's greater capability and our own interests and our reputation today warrant that we actually help out in difficult situations. We will not be considered a responsible country if bad things are happening around our neighborhood and we say, I got nothing to do with this.
Helping the neighborhood is in India's best interests too, which is why India is patrolling the seas, making sure that pirates do not take advantage of the regional instability. Piracy off the Somali coast has been making a comeback. You could call it a direct fallout of the Red Sea crisis. Yemen-based Houthis have been attacking ships. Somali pirates see this as an opportunity. They think that everyone is distracted by the Houthis, so no one will bother them. But that is not the case. India is on the job. It is not officially a part of the US-led Red Sea mission, but India is providing support to everyone in need, even the citizens of hostile nations. And India has been doing this for weeks. Last Friday, India helped a British oil tanker. It had been struck by Houthi missiles. The INS Vishakhapatnam helped douse the flames. Earlier this month, India rescued another ship, a cargo ship called the MV Leela Norfolk. The Indian Navy saved 21 crew members from being taken hostage. So yesterday was not an anomaly. India has taken on the mantle of guardian and has been fulfilling its duty with distinction. Hopefully, the neighborhood and the world is watching all of this. This crisis hurts everyone. The difference is in the response. Some fan the fires, others try to douse them. Now let's talk about the Indian economy. This is budget week in India. The government will present the annual budget, the last one ahead of the general election, and no big announcements are expected because this will be an interim budget, a temporary financial plan to keep things going until the election is over and the new government takes oath. But that hasn't stopped New Delhi from sending a few signals and setting some ambitious targets. In the next 3 years, India aims to become the world's third largest economy with a GDP of $5 trillion. By 2030, India plans to add another $2 trillion to its GDP. So the goal is to reach $7 trillion in 7 years. Like I said, this is an ambitious target, also a sign of confidence. It shows that the current leadership has faith in its handling of the economy, and they expect to continue steering the ship in the foreseeable future. Now, confidence is a good thing, but are these targets realistic? We say they are. Look at India's growth trajectory, the projections for 2024. The Central Bank of India has given an estimate. It believes India will grow at 7%. The Finance Ministry says they will beat this target, meaning they're aiming for more than 7% growth this year. Similarly, for 2025, the Finance Ministry has released a report. It says India will maintain a 7% growth rate in 2025 as well. And if India can sustain this momentum, it can achieve the targets it has set itself. But that is not to say that there are no challenges. In its report, the Finance Ministry has identified 3 trends that could define the future and shape India's economy, that also happen to pose challenges. So what are these trends/challenges? Number 1, deglobalization. 2, artificial intelligence. And 3, energy transition. Let's start with deglobalization. What does it even mean? It's the opposite of globalization, basically a world that is less interconnected. The idea is to diversify supply chains and reduce dependence and linkages to certain countries. It's happening as we speak, but it's a slow process. Supply chain alternatives would not emerge overnight. They will take time to shape up. India believes that there is no immediate risk on this front, but going forward, the push for alternatives will be more aggressive. Governments and companies will explore newer and better options. Broadly, they have 2 considerations: low cost and high quality. And why is this trend a challenge for India? It should ideally be an opportunity, a chance to attract global businesses, to reorient supply chains away from China and towards India. And it is a fact that India is the best place to challenge the China model, but here is another fact. This is a highly competitive space, and India is not the only player. There's Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, even Mexico. They're all vying for the same market, competing for a bigger piece of the same pie. And that's where India's challenge lies. In order to win the best deals and remain an attractive choice, India will have to remain competitive. And how do you do that? The Finance Ministry has offered a prescription. It says India will have to invest towards lowering the cost of logistics and improving production to build better quality products. So it can be done, but this is the first challenge. The second challenge/trend is artificial intelligence. It is upon us, and it's changing our lives, whether we like it or not. Many companies are adopting AI, investments in AI are growing, and job descriptions are changing overnight. India senses a risk here, because the service sector is a major contributor to the Indian economy. In 2019, services made up more than half of India's GDP. And India is world famous for its IT services, among others. It commands a 10% share in the global market. The rise of AI puts this position at risk. India believes that AI poses a challenge to job creation and that it will slow down the services trend. That's what the report says. The third challenge or trend is energy transition. As global temperatures rise, the pressure on India is also rising. The pressure to move away from fossil fuels and to green energy. Now, this transition will help all of us in the long run, but in the short term, it will hurt growth. It will slow you down. What India needs to do is strike a balance between its growth needs and its environmental obligations. So these are the 3 big challenges: supply chain diversification, artificial intelligence, and green energy transition. This is what India's policymakers are working on. Will Thursday's budget set the foundation to solve these problems? I'm afraid we'll be able to tell you only on Thursday. That's budget day, so watch this space for updates. The Indian Navy may have rescued Pakistani fishermen, but it seems no one can rescue the country's big fish. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan, he's been found guilty again, this time in what's known as the cipher case. Imran Khan and his deputy, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, both have been given 10 years in prison. They've been found guilty of leaking a classified document and damaging diplomatic relations. They apparently did this by leaking a diplomatic cable, a cipher, back in March 2022. This cable was sent to Imran Khan's government by Pakistan's ambassador in Washington. Imran Khan said that the message detailed a conspiracy, a plan to remove him from power. Ironically, he was ousted from power soon after this. He lost a parliamentary no-confidence motion in April 2022, and then he was buried in legal cases, eventually leading to his arrest in August last year. He was initially convicted in a graft case. That sentence was later suspended, but he could not leave prison. He has remained in jail since August in pre-trial detention over the cipher case. And this trial took place from inside the prison. Imran Khan's team insists it was all a sham.
Legal team of Mr. Imran Khan were ousted from the proceedings were thrown literally out of the court, and they were not given the right to cross-examine and to defend their clients. This is unconstitutional. This is against the principles of natural justice.
The jail is located in the city of Rawalpindi, home to the general headquarters of the Pakistani army. And this is not a coincidence, of course. But you see, the Pakistani army has a large role to play in this entire drama, as it does in most of Pakistan's numerous problems. The army is the real power in Pakistan. It wields enormous clout. When it hasn't pulled off a coup, it runs things from the shadows. It props up a puppet civilian government and a prime minister they can control. At one point, Imran Khan was this puppet. He had the army's backing in 2018, allowing him to win that year's general election. He won in 2018, but the relationship eventually broke down. Imran Khan turned against the Pakistani army. He wanted independence to push his own agenda. So Rawalpindi struck back. They're said to have engineered his downfall, put up a different puppet regime in his place, and they have been behind his incarcerations. But there's a problem. Imran Khan remains extremely popular. He has a lot of support on the ground. Even today, his followers were livid at his conviction. They said the army is trying to bury him.
We all know who is honest and who are the looters. Imran Khan is our last hope. The whole system is trying to eliminate him.
Pakistan goes to polls on the 8th of February with one of its most popular politicians behind bars. Not just that, his party has systematically been dismantled. A number of senior leaders were forced to defect. They were kept in prison till they denounced Imran Khan and switched parties. Other senior leaders are on the run. Meanwhile, his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, that's the name of Imran Khan's party, PTI, it has been de facto banned. The PTI's election symbol was a cricket bat, a reference to Imran Khan's past as an international cricketer. Now, this bat symbol has been taken from them. The symbol was important for Pakistani voters who cannot read. They rely on the symbol to recognize the party they're voting for. Now, the PTI leaders have to contest with unique symbols, which will lead to confusion and lost votes. Another fallout of the symbol ban is on reserved seats. 70 of Pakistan's 336 parliamentary seats are reserved. The PTI cannot contest these now that their symbol has been banned. They don't have a symbol, meaning that Imran Khan is fighting, his party is fighting only on 266 of the 336 seats. So his party has no identity and he cannot contest because he's behind bars. The whole election is essentially a bad joke. It is rigged to ensure a military-approved regime wins, which will probably be that of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who was once where Imran Khan is now. He was out of favor and in jail. That's when Imran Khan won in 2018, but the tables have turned. Nawaz Sharif seemed to be playing ball with the Pakistani army, and he's reaping the rewards while Imran Khan languishes in jail. Moral of the story? Pakistan's democracy is a sham. Their army is the real power behind the throne. Unless it is reined in, Pakistanis will never get a taste of real freedom. On to China now, where the Communist Party is witnessing a shake-up. It began last year. Beijing sacked many high-profile figures, including the defense and foreign ministers. No explanation given. All we got was speculation, rumors of a massive purge ordered by Chinese President Xi Jinping himself. It was not clear what the full scope of this purge was. But now we finally have numbers. China is purging officials at an industrial scale. In 2023, listen to this, in 2023, some 110,000 officials faced a crackdown, 110,000 in 1 year. These were Communist Party officials from various departments, mostly low-ranking. China's top anti-corruption body caught them. They were engaged in small-time corruption. Xi Jinping calls these people flies and ants, meaning they're small players. 41,000 of these flies were punished for reasons like failing to take responsibility or paying lip service to orders. That was their crime. Another 40,000 were pulled up for small-time corruption, like receiving gifts or money or for attending lavish events. Like I said, these are low-ranking officials engaging in petty acts of graft. They also make easy targets. But the list includes senior officials too. Reports say 45 senior officials in China were purged last year. The Chinese president has a nickname for them too. He calls them tigers, the big players. So tigers and flies. And since Xi Jinping came to power, many such tigers have been pulled up. They have disappeared. They've been put behind bars and purged, and this happens every year. So what's different this time? What's different about these 45 officials? Why is the crackdown of 2023 significant? Because it is the biggest purge on record. China has never before investigated so many senior officials. Compared with 2022, the number of cases shot up by 40%. But curiously, on this list of corrupt officials, there are no names from the military, none from the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. When China released this list, it left out the military, even though the cleanup in the PLA is their worst kept secret. Last year, Beijing removed Li Shangfu, China's defense minister. Just like the others, one fine day, he disappeared from the public eye. Weeks later, China announced that he'd been sacked. No reason was given. But the rumor is that Li is being investigated for corruption. Before taking over as defense minister, he was part of the PLA's rocket force. And this stint of his has come under scrutiny. In fact, there were more sackings related to this from the rocket force. 2 top generals were removed. By the end of last year, more than a dozen military officials had been purged. And that crackdown is not over. Today, China expelled another rocket scientist. His name is Wang Xiaojun. And Wang was an important man. He developed rockets for the Chinese military. He was behind China's Long March 7 rocket. It's used for space launches. Recently, it was used to send supplies to the Chinese space station and to launch satellites. So why was Wang removed? Again, no reasons given. But it could be because of this report. We told you about this a few weeks back. Water was found inside Chinese rockets. Water instead of fuel. It showed the extent of corruption in the PLA. The US conducted an assessment of the Chinese rocket force. They released an intelligence report. It revealed the weaknesses in China's rocket force. It showed that their missile silos were defective. Some of them won't even open. And PLA officers have been removing fuel and filling the rockets with water. So is Wang being held responsible for all of this? It's hard to say honestly, but one thing's for sure. These high-profile, large-scale sackings are bound to weaken the PLA. Now let's turn our attention to vapes. They were invented about 2 decades ago. Initially, they were used as smoking cessation devices. They were marketed as the lesser of 2 evils. Vapes have come a long way since. Now they come in candy, soda or fruity flavors, in a kaleidoscope of colors. They have a new name as well, puff bars, and a new target, teenagers. Millions of teens are vaping the world over. In the UK, youth vaping has tripled in the past 3 years. Now Britain wants to ban disposable vapes. Meanwhile, Australia has already banned the import of vapes, yet more than 13 tons of disposable vapes worth $4.5 million have been seized at the border this week. How and why are e-cigarettes making their way into the hands of children, and can it be fixed? Our next report tells you.
When vapes first came to the market, they were seen as the lesser of 2 evils. Their main role was to help people move away from traditional cigarettes. But over the past few years, vapes have undergone a revamp. They are no longer called e-cigarettes or vapes. They have a cute nickname, puff bars. Vapes are no longer a smoking cessation device either. They are a trendy accessory, donned by children and teens. Also, they are no longer boring looking. Vapes now come in a kaleidoscope of colors and a cornucopia of different flavors. Kiwi and strawberry, bubblegum, soda, you name it. And the stores near you will probably have it. After all, stores are displaying vapes right next to candies. and influencers are casually vaping on TikTok. All of this has curated the perfect storm of vape smoke. And this is the result. Increasingly, vapes are making their way into the hands of children. There's been a sharp uptick in the UK. Last year, 20.5% of children 11 to 17 tried vaping. That's 1 in 5, up from 15.8% in 2022 and 13.9% in 2020. Meanwhile, regular youth vaping has tripled in the past 3 years. This is a big problem. Vapes may be less harmful than cigarettes, but they contain nicotine, which is highly addictive. Vapes also come with a suite of other chemicals. All of this can cause lung damage, breathlessness, and nicotine poisoning. There have been cases of burns or shattered jaws from exploding vapes as well. And apart from health concerns, they're also a major environmental hazard. Disposable vapes contain lithium batteries. An estimated 5 million are thrown away each week in Britain. So now, Britain wants to ban single-use vapes, restrict their flavours, and regulate packaging and displays.
Talk to any parent or teacher, as I've been doing here at this school in Darlington this morning. They'll talk to you about the worrying rise in vaping amongst children. Now, children shouldn't be vaping. We don't want them to get addicted. We still don't understand the full long-term health impacts of vaping. So it's right that we take strong action to stamp this out. That's what we're doing, banning disposable vapes.
All of this is aimed at curbing the appeal of vapes among the youth. But the UK is not the only one working on it. France has moved to ban single-use vapes. Germany has proposed to push for a similar ban across the EU. New Zealand has introduced regulations on marketing vapes to children. Meanwhile, it has been illegal for any Australian to purchase vapes without a doctor's prescription since 2021. But despite this, the rates of addiction have continued to skyrocket, especially among children. 1 in 6 high school students are vaping in Australia, and 1 in 4 aged between 18 and 24 are vaping. So on January 1st this year, the land down under brought a sweeping new law. It banned the import of disposable vapes. Yet over 13 tons of disposable vapes were seized by the border officers this week. That's worth $4.5 million. It's the first such large-scale seizure since the ban. But overall, 250,000 disposable vapes have been seized since January 1st, worth about $7.4 million. You see, despite regulations, vapes may not be going anywhere. They have a booming black market and a huge demand. So simply banning their purchase or import won't solve the problem. Experts say higher taxes on vapes can reduce their appeal to the youth. So can strict regulation of social media messaging, vape packaging, marketing and flavors. Without multiple guardrails, execution of a simple ban on vapes may only end up in smoke.
Our next story is about forming friendships. Troops from Saudi Arabia are in India, and this is a landmark event because India and Saudi Arabia will host their first ever bilateral army exercise. It is named Sada Tanseek, an Arabic term which means forever in coordination. Now, this year is the inaugural edition. There will be more in the future. The Saudi troops are in India till the 10th of February. So where is the exercise being held? In the western Indian state of Rajasthan, hidden in the sand dunes, is a small town called Mahajan. The Indian Army has a special desert warfare range there. And this is about 280 kilometers from Pakistan, which is an interesting detail because there was a time when Islamabad had its troops in Saudi Arabia. But times have changed now. The Saudi Kingdom's troops are in India to perform combat drills. A 45-member contingent of the Royal Saudi Land Forces is taking part. India too has a 45-member team from the mechanized infantry. The unit is called the Brigade of Guards. The exercise began yesterday, the 29th of January. They'll perform a wide range of military maneuvers over a span of almost 2 weeks. The main focus will be on 3 things: cordon and search operations, house intervention drills, and live fire exercises. The two armies have even put up a joint statement. It says the troops will share their experiences, techniques, and tactics. But like I said, the larger focus is on friendship. And how did this come about? Let's take you back to September last year. New Delhi hosted the G20 summit. India's diplomatic influence was on full display, and right after the summit began a state visit. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, better known as MBS. He was India's guest. MBS and Prime Minister Modi held extensive meetings. They agreed to expand cooperation in trade and investment, in energy, and in defense and security. And the result is this: their first ever army drills together. Prime Minister Modi's personal equation with MBS has played a role. India and Saudi Arabia have been getting closer, particularly in defense. In fact, it all began 3 years ago in 2021. The Indian Navy sent the INS Kochi to Saudi Arabia, the same ship that is currently deployed in the Red Sea. In 2023, the naval drills expanded. India sent 2 warships instead of 1. The focus was on sea dominance and anti-piracy drills. And fast forward to today. The military engagement has evolved. It's because mutual trust is deepening. India and Saudi Arabia have established a joint committee on defense cooperation. So basically, Saudi Arabia has now become a major partner. In fact, this is part of a trend. Earlier this month, India hosted troops from the UAE. Guess where those drills were held? The sand dunes of Rajasthan, the very same place where the Saudi troops are now performing their drills. So is this a message to Pakistan? Because there was a time when Islamabad was a close ally of West Asia. Pakistani troops, like I told you, were stationed in Saudi Arabia, and this was the case for decades. Pakistan also trained thousands of Saudi troops. Their defense cooperation had no limits, it seemed. But now Saudi troops coming to India shows a clear shift. Also a message to the Islamic world that New Delhi has their trust. And with the security crisis in the Red Sea, stronger military ties between India and West Asia means only good news for the region. Now to Southeast Asia, where a new front is shaping up to take on China. The Philippines and Vietnam are teaming up. They have signed security agreements targeted at the South China Sea. The idea is to counter Chinese aggression in the disputed waters. Hanoi and Manila are joining forces to boost their collective defense, and India is a defense supplier to both these nations. So will this new security pact enhance India's role in the region? Our next report explores the possibilities.
Tensions in the South China Sea are high. 2023 was dominated by pictures like these, showing Chinese vessels ramming into ships from Manila. The Philippines issued several warnings, even ultimatums, but the bullying by China hasn't stopped. So Manila made an outreach to Hanoi.
Vietnam remains the sole strategic partner of the Philippines in the ASEAN region. And I am hopeful that this meeting will provide fresh opportunities to reinforce our bilateral relations with the aim all fostering peace and prosperity.
The outcome of that meeting was a security pact. The agreement brings the coast guards of the Philippines and Vietnam closer. They'll step up their cooperation through joint drills and training. Eventually, both countries would like to run operations together in the disputed South China Sea. The agreement is likely to provoke China, but Beijing might even be taken aback. Both Vietnam and the Philippines are on opposite ends of the South China Sea dispute. They are among the 6 parties claiming the region. China's territorial claims in the region are the most extensive. Beijing asserts that nearly all of the South China Sea falls under its jurisdiction. Manila and Hanoi have overlapping claims. While a security pact may not settle their disputes, it can help them manage their differences. And perhaps corner China in the region. In recent years, the South China Sea has become extremely volatile, with Beijing becoming more assertive in staking its claims. Last week, it challenged Vietnam over 2 islands in the region. Beijing issued a warning to Hanoi.
The Shisha Islands, known as Paracel Islands in English, and the Nansha Islands, known as Spratly Islands in English, are China's territories, and there are sufficient historical and legal grounds for this. China first discovered, named, developed, and operated these archipelagos and continues to exercise sovereignty over them. China consistently opposes the illegal claims of the relevant countries to Chinese territory and will continue to firmly safeguard its sovereignty.
These threats are becoming more frequent. It has forced their stakeholders to join hands and step up their collective defense. This has created an opening for India. Since last year, New Delhi has been courting Southeast Asian nations. India is offering them weapons and powerful military equipment. Both Manila and Hanoi have emerged as beneficiaries. This year, India will deliver the BrahMos missile to the Philippines. The missile system is expected to reach Manila in March. Last year, Vietnam received a warship from India, a fully operational missile corvette fitted with medium and close-range guns, as well as missile launchers. The warship was a gift from New Delhi to Hanoi. As Hanoi and Manila unite to protect the South China Sea, primarily from Beijing, Indian military hardware could play a key role in strengthening their collective defense.
Now let's talk about Elon Musk. He put up a post a few hours ago on Twitter, now known as X, and this is what he said. The first human received an implant from Neuralink yesterday and is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. For the uninitiated, here's what it means. Elon Musk has just put a computer chip in a human brain. His startup called Neuralink has started human trials. Musk co-founded Neuralink in 2016. 8 years later, they have their first human test subject. This is a big milestone. It will allow us to see proof of concept. And what is the concept? A brain-computer interface, or BCI, brain-computer interface. The technology will allow people to control machines with their thoughts. Musk had a follow-up post. He says the first product is called telepathy. It will allow you to control your phone or computer just by thinking. And through them, you can control other devices. If it works, it could be a game changer, especially for people with some form of paralysis. They could benefit immensely from a technology like this. Musk says they will be the first recipients. Here's what he wrote, and I'm quoting. Imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. That is the goal. It's an ambitious dream. But how does the technology work? Let me take you through what we know so far. A computer chip and other electronics will be inserted into the brain. This is the link in Neuralink. It's reportedly about the size of a few coins. The chip will be battery operated. It can be charged wirelessly, so no need to worry about replacing it, which would be hard anyway because it will be inserted directly into the brain. So replacement would be a problem. And this insertion will happen by a special surgical robot. They will put this chip into your brain. Yes, a robot, not a trained neurosurgeon. This is because of because one part of the link has wires directly hooked up to your brain. It is so intricate, apparently it cannot be done by humans, so you need a robot to do it. These wires or threads monitor your brain activity. They will read your thoughts and pass them on to the chip. The chip will then send a signal to an app on your phone or computer. That is how the setup works. It may sound complicated, but it's not exactly revolutionary. The first device like this came out all the way back in 2004. There are other companies that have been doing this, working on the brain-computer interface for years to get your brain to talk directly to a computer and get machines moving. Older devices let people control a robotic limb with their mind. So it has been done before. Then what makes Neuralinks special? The sheer volume of brain signals that it wants to capture, that is what's special. The other brain chips that exist are slower. They may not allow for what Elon Musk wants to do, because helping people without limbs is just the beginning. He eventually wants an advanced brain-computer interface. Imagine driving a smart car with just your thoughts, or playing video games with your mind, or accessing all the information on the internet through your brain. The possibilities are endless. There's a reason Musk is calling this first product telepathy. It sets the tone for what is to come. Eventually, we could reach new heights of human capabilities, humans augmented with machine parts that are mind-controlled, like a cyborg in a sci-fi movie. But of course, there are drawbacks and threats too. Like almost every new technology, this too will be open to abuse. Imagine someone hacking your brain chip, reading your thoughts, controlling your robotic limbs. It's a terrifying prospect, and someone will likely manage to do it, so we need to be cautious. Guard against the potential risks while exploring the potential benefits. Such brain chips may help millions of people, and Elon Musk's company has taken a crucial step towards this. Now we wait and watch. We see how the human test subject reacts to the Neuralink chip. The next few weeks will tell us how far along the technology is and how long until you get such a chip in stores near you. From experimenting with the brain, we move to a different kind of experiment, a political one. It's about South Africa's former president, Jacob Zuma. He's back in the spotlight. South Africa's ruling party, the African National Congress, or the ANC, has suspended Jacob Zuma. This was his party. He's been suspended. This comes just weeks after he denounced the ANC. He declared that he would campaign for a new party. Now, his rivalry with the ANC and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is out in the open. It's an old one, really. Jacob Zuma says he won't support his own party, the same party that supported his presidency for 9 years despite scandals. Now they can't seem to find common ground. Their partnership of almost 60 years is coming to an end. Zuma has been given 2 days to respond to his suspension. South Africa will vote for a new president in a few months from now. What does this spat between Zuma and the ANC mean ahead of the polls? Here's our report.
South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma is making waves again. The politician has been suspended from his own party. The African National Congress has booted Zuma. This comes just weeks after the former South African president picked a political fight with the ANC. It goes back a few weeks. In December last year, Jacob Zuma shook South Africa's political landscape. The 81-year-old withdrew his support from the ANC. Zuma announced that he would back a new party, the newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe party. Zuma's daughter made the news public. She read out a statement from the former president.
In 2024, I will vote for the Umkhonto weSizwe MK party.
And Zuma wants his supporters to follow his lead. He says anyone who votes for the ANC is betraying South Africa. Now the ANC has suspended Zuma from the party. It is all unraveling just a few months before South Africa goes to polls. Jacob Zuma has been associated with the African National Congress for almost 60 years. Their relationship goes back to the struggles during apartheid. Zuma rose through the ranks of the ANC. He was voted party president in 2007. In 2009, Zuma became South Africa's president, and he stayed in power till 2018. However, his rule was filled with allegations of corruption and scandals. But despite all the turmoil, the ANC supported Zuma, and while Zuma is no longer in power, his legal battles continue, and now he also has a political one on his hands. The African National Congress has been in power for almost 30 years. First, it was Jacob Zuma who was in power, then the baton was passed over to Cyril Ramaphosa. In 2018, Ramaphosa inherited Zuma's cabinet. He instantly reshuffled the portfolios and removed many ministers of the Zuma era. Ramaphosa said he wanted the government to have a new start, one that would shed the baggage of close ties with the Gupta family. The Gupta brothers are a wealthy and influential family from India. They were known for their proximity to Zuma and his senior officials. The family was accused of winning government contracts by influencing ministers. They were infamously known as the Zupta brothers. Ramaphosa wanted to create a new image for his party. This ignited a political rivalry which is unraveling today, and Ramaphosa is aware of that.
The actions we were mandated to take against corruption and state capture have at times caused friction amongst us.
The rivalry between Zuma and Ramaphosa has created this political rift, and despite this emotional message from Zuma,
I will be a member of the ANC until I die.
it looks like the relationship of almost 60 years is coming to an end. Once a stronghold of South African politics, the ANC is now facing a crisis. Fighting in the party is hurting them. The upcoming presidential election will be highly contested. Will Zuma's spat with the ANC create a power vacuum? We will know in a few months.
Our last story tonight is about a superpower. All of us possess it, but we rarely use it. I'm talking about the power of power naps. For years, napping was seen as a sign of laziness. We say things like caught napping or found asleep at the switch. But lately, nap time has gathered newfound respect. New scientific evidence proves that napping is powerful juice. Now, the academics may get a lot of told-you-sos, for starters, from nesting penguins who nap over 10,000 times a day, or babies who can nap at least thrice a day, or even cultures where afternoon naps are a daily ritual, like in the states of West Bengal and Goa in India. Their afternoon naps are sacrosanct. The Spanish are renowned for their daily siesta. Japanese workers also enjoy what they called hirune, or afternoon naps. But maybe their side eye will be well deserved, because some shut eye can do wonders. Regular naps are good for our long-term health. Naps lasting just 15 minutes can help our body repair. They help regrow tissues, build muscles, and strengthen the immune system. But more than this, naps are great for our brains. They keep our brains bigger for longer. Let me explain why that's important. Think of your brain as a fruit. As you age, the brain will shrink in size. So the brain volume will decrease. And this has been linked to a wide range of diseases. It's a major reason why older people are more prone to ailments. People with smaller brains are more likely to have higher levels of stress. Also, higher risks of cardiovascular diseases and dementia. Naps help us process new information, consolidate our memory. They give our brains much needed rest. Naps lasting just 5 to 15 minutes immediately improve how we perform mentally. Their effects can last up to 3 hours, and regular naps over the week can delay brain aging by 3 to 6 years, thus keeping our brains bigger. Now, this is probably why tech giants like Google, Samsung, and Meta have nap pods in their offices. Why truck drivers and hospital interns have a culture of napping. It helps them maintain alertness. Or why many schools incorporate nap time for children. I'm no mind reader, but at this point you may be thinking that naps don't work for everyone. Maybe they don't leave you feeling refreshed. You just end up feeling more tired. Sometimes you wake up after a power nap and don't know which planet you're on or what year it is. In that case, let me tell you this. When it comes to power naps, timing is key, like when you nap and for how long you nap. Power naps should not go for longer than 20 minutes. And they yield maximum benefits when you nap in the afternoon, that is between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. That's when naps boost physical and mental performance the most. But if you frequently need daytime naps, it can be a cause for concern. It can be a sign that you aren't getting sufficient sleep, because naps are no substitutes for a good night's sleep. They're just additional bonus. So it is not just important to get into the habit of naps, but to do it right. As they say, sleep is nature's medicine. So when it comes to power naps, the goal is to treat it as such. Use it in small doses at the right time to reap the benefits. And as the day goes, regain your momentum, not by reaching for that third latte, but by embracing your cat nap, because the real fiesta, they say, can lie in some siesta.
We will respond.
The White House on Monday said U.S. President Joe Biden was weighing his options after the drone attack in Jordan by Iran-backed militants that killed 3 U.S. service members and wounded dozens more. Here's White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby.
We do not seek another war. We do not seek to escalate. But we will absolutely do what is required to protect ourselves, to continue that mission, and to respond appropriately to these attacks.
Earlier in the day, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke on the issue as well.
The President and I will not tolerate attack on U.S. forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S. and our troops.
Later, Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh identified the soldiers killed in Sunday's attack, the youngest victim just 23 years old.
The names of those soldiers who lost their lives were Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, and Specialist Breonna Moffett. Right now, we assess that there are more than 40 that have been injured. We do expect that number to continue to fluctuate as our service members, as you know, with TBI, report symptoms later on, so that number could continue to grow.
The attack put new political pressure on Biden to deal a blow directly against Iran, a step he has been reluctant to take out of fear of igniting a broader
And finally, it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story, starting with the American state of Oklahoma, where a police officer survived a violent crash. In Hong Kong, dragons and whales lit up the sky. In Brazil, a carnival went to the dogs, quite literally. And finally, we're taking you back in history. On January 30th, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. Gandhi was a key leader in India's independence movement, reverentially called Father of the Nation. We're leaving you with that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Você tem Instagram, não tem, Silvio?
Vem. Senta. A very good evening. You're watching CNN News 18. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Let's dive into the segment with breaking inputs coming in from Jharkhand. All right, now we're learning that Jharkhand's Chief Minister Hemant Soren is finding himself under increasing pressure after a two-day absence. Soren has re-emerged in Ranchi and greeted by supporters and conducting a crucial meeting at his residence. ED sources are now telling that Enforcement Directorate has already asked for additional paramilitary force from the centre, remember, because the ED is all set to interrogate the Jharkhand Chief Minister tomorrow. The request comes in before the questioning of Hemant Soren, and ED's Jharkhand team will be posing all their questions to the Chief Minister tomorrow, most likely in the afternoon. For more details, let's quickly go across to Anshul, who's joining me on the phone line. Anshul, first of all, what time is the interrogation expected to begin? Secondly, what will be those questions that the ED will be looking answers for?
Yes, the reply that was sent to the Enforcement Directorate by the Chief Minister's office is that the Chief Minister would be available to join the investigation at 1 p.m. tomorrow. And that is the time when the investigation is likely to start. But last time around, that is on the 20th of January, we saw when the first time Hemant Soren was being questioned by the Enforcement Directorate, there were a lot of supporters of JMM who had gathered outside the residence of CM Hemant Soren, and even when this news broke yesterday at CNN News 18 that how the Enforcement Directorate had gone ahead and reached the Delhi-based residence of Hemant Soren, post that also there were a lot of protests that were carried out by the supporters of JMM. Now, since tomorrow is the day when finally Hemant Soren will be questioned by the Enforcement Directorate, and this comes especially after the recoveries that have been made by the Enforcement Directorate. This includes the finding of rupees 36 lakhs at his residence, and also seizing two BMWs which were being used by the family members of Hemant Soren and his family as well when they used to travel to Delhi, and hence the Enforcement Directorate has asked for additional support from the central government when it comes to providing them with
Anshul, which is why I want to ask you, how crucial is it now going to be for the Enforcement Directorate to establish Hemant Soren's role in this entire land scam that is being the focus of this entire investigation? Because remember, the JMM and its